This happened when I was around 8 years old. For some reason, I never told anyone about it. I guess saying it out loud makes it real for me, and also I feared people would think I was imagining things. I grew up in a small island in the Indian Ocean. There are no trains, and the public transport is, well, not that great. My grandparents lived about 2 hours away by bus, and we had to change bus a couple of times. On this occasion, for the first time, my brother was assigned the responsibility to accompany me to my grandparents. He was around 16 years old, which made him a child as well. Usually, my mom would take us, but both my parents had to go to a funeral that day and planned to go straight to Grandma's later that afternoon. Now, I cannot remember the occasion. I think it was a birthday celebration for someone. I was not very close to my brother, mainly because of the 8-year age gap. As you can imagine, a typical teenager would behave. He was not very happy to have to babysit me. The bus terminated its route at the terminal. We had to change bus twice to get to the destination. We went for our first bus change. My brother sat me down on a bench, told me not to move, and had walked away. At first glance, one could assume I was alone, and there was no adult around me or sitting next to me. The platform was bustling with activity, and there was a lot of people milling around at the terminal. I was scared that I was going to get lost. My mom would stay close to me when she was with us. To be honest, this deep-seated fear was a result of another incident where my mom mistakenly grabbed another child's hand at a wedding and made her way to the exit, leaving me behind. I must have been 6 years old at the time. It was a neighbor's Indian wedding ceremony, which typically lasts 3 days, and we attended the dinner held on the second day. There was around 200 people there. My mom walked over to the host holding my hand and let go briefly to chat with the host, thanking her for the dinner. She reached out behind her to grab my hands while still talking to the host. She turned and quickly walked away. Unbeknown to her, she had, in fact, grabbed the hand of another little girl who happened to be walking by, and the girl did not cry but silently followed her. This happened so quickly, I lost track of her amidst the crowd. Thinking she had abandoned me, I started crying. When I had misbehaved in the past, she would threaten to take me somewhere and leave me, or that there was a mix-up at the hospital, and I was not her child. I mean, if she wanted to mess me up, hooray, she succeeded. I had no problem believing she had acted on her threats this time. Eventually, the girl's mother started screaming,
Where is my daughter?
Someone had noticed my mother walking away with the little girl, and they realized I was standing there, bawling my eyes out. Penny dropped. My mom rushed back, and the children were returned to the respective parents. The fear had already taken root. My mom felt shame after that and never made these threats again. At the bus terminal, my brother was nowhere to be seen. Anyways, it is easy to get lost or be left behind when people are rushing to get on the bus. I reeled in my fear and sat on the bench, hoping my brother was not going to leave me behind. I noticed a 40-ish man walk by on the platform, looking at me intensely, and his eyes stayed on me well after he had walked to the other side of the platform. That raised alarm bells and made me uncomfortable. I could not see my brother anywhere, but when the guy started walking closer to me, he suddenly materialized. He whistled, drawing everyone's attention to him, and he held his hand out, indicating it was time to go. He glared at the guy, indicating he was aware of his unwanted attention before we walked away. I don't remember if the creepy man got on the same bus as us, but I knew we had another bus change and a short walk to my grandparents' house. I thought it would be hard for someone to follow us without us noticing. Right? Wrong. We arrived at our destination. My brother did not talk about the guy at the bus terminal with me or anyone else. I guess my mom would have chewed his head off and questioned him why he left me alone on a bench. All my aunts and uncles were already at the house, and after everyone had arrived, we took a family picture on the stairs of the porch. There were 2 houses on the property sharing the driveway. One is my grandparents' house, and the other was my uncle's. The entrance of the driveway is flanked by tall hedges on both sides. There was a big crowd of about 20 members of my extended family laughing and joking on the stairs, and my mom and brother were standing next to me at the top of the stairs. While my uncles were arguing on who was standing where, I noticed the stalker guy from bus station walk by on the street staring at me. Both my brother and I exchanged looks, and we looked back at the road. He returned and walked the opposite direction, still looking at us. Petrified, I was ready to scream and tell my family about the weird guy, but he did not come back again. We returned home by car late in the evening. I guess the creepy guy thought he was following me home. Instead, I was visiting my grandparents. I am glad that this did not happen when I was making my way home to my parents' house. It is terrifying to think someone followed me and my brother for over an hour, including another bus change, and be brazen enough to show his face with all these people present. Back then, as an 8-year-old, I had forgotten all about this the next day. Now, after all these years, I am starting to view this incident under a very different light. After my father passed away, my family struggled to make ends meet. I wanted to go to university, but my mother had other ideas. She wanted me to work and help support my two younger siblings, 15-year-old Joe and 9-year-old Sarah. For a while, I waged an internal war between staying and helping my mom or leave for London. My siblings convinced me to go and not to worry about them. So I did. Selfish. I know, but I did not want to work in a bar all my life. Since childhood, I had dreamed of being a journalist. You know, those that travel to natural disaster areas or war-torn countries? One of my dad's friends, Edgar, had a contact in London who offered to lodge me until I was able to find a job and my own place. Things were falling into place, and even though I did not know the person I was staying with, I trusted my dad's friend. He came for dinner at home on several occasions and was a close family friend. Josh picked me up at the train station, and he seemed friendly and kind. He was in his 30s, well-built, and the glasses made him look like a professor. He said he worked in programming but did not elaborate. He pointed out the supermarket, the library, other amenities, and bus stop closest to the house as we drove to the property. The house was on one level and had 2 bedrooms. The property was gated and had a small shed at the back of the house. He lived alone, and he showed me around the house. Strangely, there was no pictures of family or friends. I tried to find out about his family, brothers or sisters, but he always changed the subject. I figured he was a private person and did not feel comfortable sharing. Maybe it was a painful subject. The room he led me to was small, had a mattress on the floor, a clothing rail, and nothing else. No chair, no table or wardrobe. It was a temporary arrangement after all. Maybe he did not want me to feel too comfortable and stay too long. We ate, watched TV, and then I woke up in my room in pitch black darkness. I was feeling woozy and did not remember going to bed. I don't drink alcohol, and I did not have any at dinner, which confused me more. Why can't I remember what happened after dinner? Everything was hazy. I got up and switched on the light. All my belongings were gone. The room had only the mattress in it. Confused, I wanted to ask Josh where my stuff was when I realized the door was locked. It would not budge, and I threw all my weight against it to force it open. Everything was blurry, and I was having difficulty walking straight. I had to lean against the wall for support. The windows had bars on them and was nailed shut. I tried to keep my eyes open, but I passed out from whatever I was dosed with. I woke up again when Josh opened the door. He stood there expressionless and stared at me for a moment before he threw a dress at me and ordered me to change. Before I could speak, he added, "It would be best for you to do as you are told, or you will get a lesson in obedience." There was a coldness in both his tone and expression, which made me believe every word he said. Gone was the nice professor, and he was replaced by a total stranger. I felt numb and went through the motion of changing into the dress. I was still wearing the jeans and t-shirt I arrived in yesterday. I registered with relief. I remained numb. I did not feel fear or rage and was unable to process what was happening to me. It felt like it was happening to someone else. 10 minutes later, he came back and told me to get out of the room. It was hard to stay upright and to put one foot in front of the other, he said quietly as I reached the doorway. Run and I will go to your house and pay a visit to your sisters. When we go outside, keep your mouth shut and get in the car quietly," he said as he followed close behind. Last night, I had left my phone charging on the table in the hall, and it was still there. I realized I had to get the phone before he put me in the car. I needed an excuse to get close to the table and said, "I need to use the bathroom." He grabbed my arm and dragged me towards the bathroom. As we passed the table littered with unopened letters, brochures, leaflets, and takeaway menus, I tried to reach for the phone, but he was too quick. He pulled me back and took the phone. He pulled out the SIM card, broke it in two, and dropped the phone on the floor before smashing it with his foot. "I need to deliver you in one piece without any bruise or broken bone. Don't test my patience," he said. "Scream or make a scene. I have people who can pay your family a visit." It was 6 in the morning, and there was no one on the street. He opened the passenger door, and I got in without resisting. When Josh got into the car, I asked, "Where are you taking me?" "Shut up and be quiet," he hissed as he fastened his seatbelt. I wanted to stop the car from leaving and tried to stall by appealing to his humanity. "I did everything you asked. Please tell me why you are doing this to me. Please let me go, and I swear I will not tell anyone. Please." He turned and gave me a backhand slap which knocked the air out of me. Once on the motorway, he looked at me and said, "You are bleeding. Wipe the blood off. There are wet wipes in the glove box. Attempt anything. We know where your mom works and where your sisters go to school." I did not care about what he wanted. Edgar had introduced me to this guy, which made me wonder if he had orchestrated the whole thing or got some financial benefit from this. At this point, I had figured out what was about to happen to me. There were numerous documentaries about precisely these situations. "Is Edgar involved in this?" I asked, but deep down I already knew the answer. He just shrugged and said, "Yeah." He said it in a way that seemed like he was not worried. It was obvious he thought I cannot do anything about it now. There was no danger in disclosing Edgar's involvement to me. I had to protect my family. I knew if Edgar did this to me, there was nothing stopping him from doing the same to my sisters. There were no vehicles close by. He kept the speed at 70 miles per hour. I guess he did not want to get caught on speed cameras or stopped my police with me by his side. I looked at him, and in one motion, released his seatbelt and turned the steering wheel to the left towards the motorway divider. He was caught off guard and was not able to stop me. It took a second, and the car swerved, hit the divider, and flipped into the air before landing on the asphalt upside down, sliding across with a loud metallic scraping sound. I was knocked unconscious and came to when paramedics were cutting me out of the car, before I passed out again. It took a few months for me to fully heal. I had head injury, broken collarbone, and cuts on my arms and legs. Edgar was arrested, and he negotiated for a more lenient sentence by turning in his contacts involved in this incident. Josh was thrown out of the car during the crash and did not survive. In the end, I decided to stay at home and do the journalism course online. As a family unit, we are closer than ever. I suffer from night terror and still working through it. I am now fiercely protective of my sisters and made them go through teenage safety awareness course. My trust in people has eroded, and now I am more wary of everyone around me. My friend's 6-month-old daughter got christened today. They held a small party for family and close friends at their modest 3-bedroom home. For some reason, I got flashbacks of my younger sister's christening over 10 years ago. I grew up in Richmond, and after university, I came back and moved into my childhood home. My mom lost her battle with cancer 2 years ago. The neighbors had always been there to extend a helping hand and were sort of an extended family. This is a close-knit community, and that's one of the many reasons I moved back home. I was 5 years old when my mom was first diagnosed with liver cancer. She underwent chemotherapy treatments, then went into remission. They caught it early. A few years later, she fell pregnant again with my little sister. Her health deteriorated shortly after, and they discovered the cancer was back. While my mom was undergoing treatment, we were sent to my Aunt Lucy's, who lived only a few blocks away. A month after moving in with Aunt Lucy, I noticed a white van parked across the street and a bald driver was staring at our house. I mentioned this to both Grandma and Aunt Lucy, and they both shrugged it off, saying he might be waiting for someone. On more than one occasion, I saw him parked in an alleyway outside of my school. The guy just sat there and stared at the kids on the playground. After my 3-month-old sister's christening, there was a small party for family and close friends at Aunt Lucy's home, and the neighbors popped in all day to drop off gifts and to congratulate my parents. I went to my room to get away from all the noise and people. I was focused on my Game Boy when someone covered my mouth and pulled me out of my chair. I was 12 years old and skinny. I could not put much of a fight. I saw his reflection on the mirror, and it was the bald guy from the van. I kicked and scratched as he dragged me to the window. I saw the lamp on the table and tried to kick it off the table. After several attempts, it fell and shattered on the floor. This had attracted Aunt Lucy's attention, who came running and screamed when she saw the man trying to pull me through the window. He released me and ran off. Fortunately, the neighbors had heard the commotion, saw the man running through the backyard, and were able to do a citizen's arrest. It turned out he had a rap sheet and was released from jail 6 months ago. He was not allowed to come close to schools, and yet that did not deter him from doing exactly that. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison with psychological assessments, which seemed to have worked marvelously the last time, right? A few years later, I heard he was killed in prison by another inmate. I am forever grateful for the quick thinking and reaction of my neighbors on that day.